The silence after the storm is a world unto itself. It is not merely an absence of sound, but a presence all its own, heavy with the memory of what has been shattered and the fragile hope of what might be rebuilt. That dinner party, that final devastating confrontation, was our hurricane. It tore through the very foundations of our lives, leaving behind a landscape I barely recognized. And in the eerie quiet that followed David's departure, as the front door clicked shut with a finality that echoed through the bones of this old house, I held my daughter, and we were the survivors standing in the wreckage. He didn't argue. He didn't try to explain. The man who had built a life on a foundation of clever words and charming lies was finally, utterly bankrupt of them. The recording had laid him bare, and there was no suit of deception he could quickly don to cover himself. He simply stopped. The rage in his eyes cooled into a kind of hollow, stunned defeat. He looked from me to Chloe, at the utter ruin of her face, and I saw a flicker of something, not remorse, never remorse, but perhaps the dawning realization of his own total loss. He had lost his wife, his son, his home, his future, his standing. Everything he had carefully cultivated and secretly pilfered was gone in the space of a 3-minute recording. He turned, a marionette with its strings cut, and walked out of the dining room, out of the front door, and out of our lives. The sound of his car engine starting and fading away down the street was the period at the end of a monstrous sentence. And then, the dam broke. Chloe's composure, which had been held together by sheer, horrified shock, shattered. A wail tore from her throat, a sound of such primal pain that it seemed to shake the crystals on the chandelier. She collapsed into my arms, her body convulsing with sobs. I held her, my own tears falling silently into her hair. I rocked her, this beautiful, strong woman reduced to a heartbroken child, and I whispered words that felt as empty as they were true. "It's over, my darling. It's over. He's gone. I've got you." This was the other side of my revenge. This was the cost. The most painful night of my long life was not the one where I faced a manufactured ghost in the basement. It was this one, holding my daughter as she wept for the death of the man she thought she'd married, as her entire understanding of her past, her present, and her future was systematically dismantled. I had avenged myself, but in doing so I had broken her heart. It was a necessary surgery, cutting out a cancerous growth, but the patient was left raw and bleeding on the table. We sat there for what felt like hours. There on the floor of the dining room, amidst the beautiful table setting and the cold remains of our dinner, the festive atmosphere had curdled into something tragic. The candles guttered and went out, one by one, plunging us into a darkness that felt fitting. Leo, thank God, had fallen asleep upstairs during the movie, blissfully unaware that his world had just been upended. For now, he was safe in the fortress of his dreams. Eventually, Chloe's sobs subsided into ragged, hiccuping breaths. She was exhausted, hollowed out. I helped her to the sofa in the living room, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and made her a cup of sweet, strong tea, my hands trembling only slightly. We didn't speak. There were no words adequate for the chasm that had opened up between what yesterday was and what today had become. The next morning, the practical world intruded. The sun rose, indifferent to our personal apocalypse. Leo was full of cheerful morning energy, and we, his grandmother and his mother, had to don our own masks once more, smiling through cracked facades, telling him that Daddy had to go away for work very early. The lie was a bitter pill, but a necessary one. The truth would come later in gentle, age-appropriate stages. Protecting him was now our paramount mission. I called my lawyer, Mr. Henderson. I played the recording for him over the phone. The long, stunned silence on the other end was its own form of commentary. When he finally spoke, his voice was grave, laced with a professional fury I had never heard from him before. "Eleanor," he said, "leave everything to me. I'll contact the authorities immediately." The aftermath was a slow, methodical, and often painful reconstruction. The police came. I played the recording for them, too. I saw the same shock on their faces, the same shift from professional detachment to visceral disgust. The recording, a perfect, self-incriminating confession, was a prosecutor's dream. It was admitted as evidence, a ghostly witness that could not be cross-examined. Combined with the treasure trove of documents and testimony from Mark, who was more than eager to cooperate once he learned the full extent of David's depravity, a massive case began to build. Charges of fraud, embezzlement, and financial elder abuse were a certainty. The attempted murder charge was, as I knew it would be, a more complex legal mountain to climb. But the threat on the recording, his cold, calm plan for my accident, was enough for a charge of criminal threatening and conspiracy, serious felonies that would see him behind bars for years, if not decades. The law moved, a great grinding machine of justice, and it had David firmly in its gears. But the true justice, the justice that mattered to my soul, wasn't happening in a courtroom. It was happening in my home. It was personal. Chloe, after a day of stunned silence and tears, found a core of steel I always knew was there but had never seen so clearly. It was the steel of a mother protecting her child. She went to her own lawyer and filed for divorce. It was a brutal, ugly process. David, cornered and stripped of his assets, fought back with petty, vicious motions. He tried to claim custody of Leo, not because he wanted him, but as a bargaining chip. He tried to go after spousal support from Chloe, a breathtaking display of audacity. But with every legal document she signed, with every baseless accusation she had to endure, she seemed to grow stronger. It was as if she were shedding the layers of poison he had injected into her life over the years. The charming, controlling husband was gone, and in his place was a desperate, flailing adversary, and facing him down was making her mighty. She and Leo moved in with me. The big, old Victorian, which had felt so cavernously empty and silent after Arthur passed, was now filled with noise again. But this noise was different. It wasn't the noise of a perfect family tradition. It was the beautiful, chaotic, and real sound of healing. It was the crash of Lego towers being built and then toppled with glee in the living room. It was the sound of tearful late-night talks over cups of chamomile tea in the kitchen, where Chloe would pour out her anger, her grief, her fears. It was the sound of slow, tentative laughter returning, first as a faint echo and then, gradually, as a genuine, joyful presence in the house. We were a trio of survivors, a unit bound by blood and a shared, terrible secret. We were rebuilding, not the life we had before, but a new one, stronger at its broken places. I never signed that new will, of course. The documents sat on my desk for a week before I took a quiet, deep satisfaction in feeding them through the shredder. The whisper and crunch of the machine felt like the true end of David's influence. I met with Mr. Henderson again and updated my estate plans properly. Everything, the house, my savings, the investments Arthur had so carefully built, would go directly to Chloe, held in a trust that she and she alone controlled. She didn't need a man to manage her life. She had proven herself more than capable. She was stronger now. We both were. I look at my grandson, Leo, and my heart aches with a complicated mixture of sorrow and ferocious hope. He is too young to understand the nuances, but he knows his father is gone. He lost the hero he thought he had. There will be questions later, difficult ones, and we will answer them with as much truth as his young heart can bear. But I see in his bright, curious eyes the potential for a better man. He will learn from this tragedy, though I wish with all my heart he never had to. He will learn that a person's integrity is their most valuable currency, far more than any wealth they might accumulate. He will learn that true strength is not found in dominating or deceiving others, but in the quiet, steadfast courage it takes to protect those you love. He will learn that love should be a sanctuary, not a weapon. As for me, the woman who was literally scared to death, I am no longer that person. The fear that David instilled in me, the cold terror that seized my heart in that basement, has been transformed. It is no longer a master that controls me. It is a reminder of my own resilience, my own capacity to endure, and my own power to fight back. The doctors tell me my heart is still physically weak. I have to be careful. I take my pills. I avoid stress. On paper, I am a fragile elderly woman with a damaged ticker. But they are wrong. In every way that matters, in spirit, in will, in the ferocity of a mother's love, my heart is stronger than it has ever been. It has been tested in the fires of betrayal and has emerged not brittle, but tempered like steel. So, what is the moral of this story? Is it that revenge is sweet? I would be lying if I said there wasn't a cold, quiet satisfaction in seeing justice served, in watching the scales balance. To see the man who held such absolute power over my life, who held my very heartbeat in his cruel hands, rendered powerless and exposed, brought a sense of closure that therapy or forgiveness alone could never have provided. There is a primal need for wrongs to be righted, and that need was met. But the real lesson, the one that is now etched into the very fabric of my soul, is about masks. We all wear them. We present a face to the world, a face to our colleagues, a face to our friends, even a face to our families. We show the world the person we want to be, or the person we believe it wants to see. There is a necessary diplomacy to life, a gentle curation of the self. But we must never ever forget to look behind the masks of those we allow into the inner sanctums of our hearts. Look for the small cracks, the subtle inconsistencies between the honeyed words and the small telling actions. Does the smile not quite reach the eyes? Is the generosity always followed by a ledger of debt, spoken or unspoken? Trust that gnawing feeling in your gut, that whisper of intuition. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Do not explain it away for the sake of peace. Peace bought with self-betrayal is no peace at all. And most importantly, never ever underestimate the quiet ones. The mothers, the grandmothers, the gentle souls who move through the world with soft voices and kind eyes. The people who seem fragile, who appear to live on the periphery of life's great battles. For we have fought in wars you can scarcely imagine. We have fought for the lives of our children. We have battled loneliness and grief. We have weathered economic storms and personal tragedies. We have loved with a ferocity that can move mountains, and we have lost with a pain that carves canyons into the soul. We have built entire worlds with our own hands, homes, families, legacies of love, and we will protect them with a ruthlessness that would shock those who only see the gentle facade. When someone threatens that world, when they betray the sacred fundamental trust of love and family, that is when the gentle mask falls away. And you will find, to your terror or your salvation, that the person you thought was so weak, so simple, so easily dismissed, is in fact the strongest, most formidable, and most relentless force you will ever know. David thought he was scaring a helpless old woman. He saw a fragile heart and a mind he could easily manipulate. He saw a stepping stone to a wealthier life. He had no idea, not even an inkling, that he was poking a sleeping giant. He had no idea he was awakening a warrior. And in the end, the greatest irony, the perfect poetic justice, was this. The ghost he tried to create, the specter of my dead husband, the terrified spirit of a murdered mother-in-law, that very ghost became his undoing. I became the ghost in his machine, the silent, watchful presence in his own home, the unseen witness who gathered the words that would become his epitaph. The phantom he sought to conjure for a night of horror became a permanent, avenging spirit that hounded him out of our lives forever. The house is quiet now, but it is a good quiet. A peaceful quiet. The moon shines down on the old Victorian, its light washing over the gables and the porch where Arthur and I used to sit on summer evenings. It looks warm. It looks solid. It has withstood the storm. Inside, my daughter and my grandson sleep safe and sound. The ghosts have been laid to rest. And a different kind of spirit, one of resilience and hard-won peace, has taken their place. The story is over. The revenge is complete. And we are finally free